Mangwana ni mwalelepo vukenjani kleklas manave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show bringing you everything you need to know happening on the African continent and beyond. You are joined by Ashwin Betty and Glenora Shipura. How are you, Glenn?
I'm doing very well. You had quite an interesting weekend.
Yeah, quite an interesting weekend. We're down deep in the south and it was wonderful. One thing about Namibia, whether it's blue or brown, it's always majestic.
Yeah, honestly, we have like really beautiful places that you can visit.
Absolutely. So let's stick to the places.
Yes, let's stick to
talk about the sport.
Let's not talk about the sports. You know,
forward.
Namibia is a beautiful tourist destination, touristic destination.
Wonderful people.
You need to come visit.
Great
And let's get into what you can expect in today's episode. Nampower renews contract defying government's directive. African leaders criticize Israel's military campaign in Gaza, and Namibia emerges as key refueling hub amid Red Sea Woes. To stay tuned for these stories and more on Africa Good Morning.
Now in Namibia, Nampower has extended the contract of its chief financial officer, Michael Gore, a Zimbabwean national, for another 5 years, despite a government directive that key positions in state-owned enterprises should not be held by foreigners. Now Gore's employment contract is expected to end by end of May this year. However, during the last meeting held in November, it was resolved to renew Gore's stay at the parastatal and informed the Ministry of Finance and Public Enterprise on 6 December. Now Nampower's board wrote a letter addressed to Louise Shihwameni and Deputy Directive Director in the Finance Ministry, stating that potential successors have been identified to replace Gore after 5 years, and that these understudies have been put on development programs for the role. Gore, a chartered accountant by profession who served as CFO in a number of state-owned enterprises, was appointed on 1 June 2019 for a 5-year period until 31 May 2024.
Getting into our next story, Congolese President Félix Tshisekedi was sworn in Saturday following a disputed December election, promising to unite the Central African country during his second 5-year term and to protect lives in the conflict-hit eastern region. His first inauguration in 2019 marked Congo's first democratic transfer of power since the country's independence from Belgium in 1960. Tshisekedi won election with more than 70% of the vote, according to the Election Commission. However, opposition candidates and their supporters questioned the validity of the election, which was mired in logistical problems. Many polling stations were late in opening or didn't open at all, while some lacked materials. Voter turnout was 40%, the Election Commission said. Congo's Constitutional Court earlier this month rejected a petition by an opposition candidate to annul the election. The court ruled that malpractice allegations were unfounded and that Tshisekedi secured a majority of votes cast.
Now, more African leaders have condemned Israel's military campaign in Gaza, urging an immediate end to the ongoing conflict that is disproportionately affecting civilians. Now, the criticism was during a conference in Uganda hosted by the Non-Aligned Movement, a coalition of 120 states that do not align formally with any major power bloc. The president of the United Nations General Assembly, Dennis Francis, expressed a deep concern and dismay over the continuing calamity in the Gaza Strip. Uganda's President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, who is also set to assume the chairmanship of the NAM, emphasized the importance of prioritizing the freedom of the people, condemning what he described as the shallowness of some global actors' philosophical, ideological, and strategic perspectives.
In some good news for Namibia, as ships destined for Asian markets increasingly opt for the Cape of Good Hope route, bypassing the tumultuous Red Sea, the Namibian port of Walvis Bay is becoming the preferred choice over Cape Town, South Africa, for vessels seeking refueling stops, presenting a godsend for the country's maritime industry. On Friday, Maritime Insight reported that African ports, especially Walvis Bay in Namibia and Port Louis in Mauritius, are becoming increasingly popular as refueling stops from Namibia to Mauritius. This report highlights that bunkering at the beginning or end of a voyage is preferable and lists these locations as Walvis Bay and Port Louis for vessels needing refueling while en route. Trevor Janjila, Nampower Manager for Business Development, told Namibian Sun that fuel bunkering operations at Walvis Bay are conducted at anchorage areas, and the port's strategic advantage lies in its more favorable weather conditions compared to Cape Town. Walvis Bay has more favorable weather conditions than Cape Town due to the shelter of Pelican Point Peninsula. Most vessels, especially bigger draft vessels, are only calling for fuel bunkering provisions and crew change.
All right, let's get an update from the business in sub-Sahara Africa from Reuters. All right, it seems like that one is not available currently. Stay with us as we bring you more news after the break.
Welcome to my.na Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master. Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss my.na Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
Neo Paints has established a 67-year Namibian legacy, creating personalized paint solutions that blend quality and innovation for the Namibian people. We pride ourselves in being a 100% Namibian-owned company, investing in our country and our people by employing and empowering true Namibians. With every brushstroke, Neo Paints commits to our quality guarantee and always delivering a coat of excellence. At Neo Paints, we always stay true to our country. We are as Namibian as you.
All right, it's time for us to swing over to Zimbabwe, where the politics are as complicated as ever, but hopefully here to sift us through it all is Talent Gore. How are you, Talent?
I'm all right, Ashrin. Good morning, Africa.
I am fantastic, but of course, if you are an opposition party supporter in Zimbabwe, it's a little difficult to be comfortable. A court has ordered ousted CCC candidates removal from the February ballot. Please broadly get into this.
Yes, so Citizens Coalition for Change MPs Ostalo Ziziba and Amos Chubaya, they have positions in the opposition party, are part of a group of 20 and councillors ousted recently on the orders of Sengezo Tsabangu, who is the interim Secretary General, who's purporting himself as the interim Secretary General, and they will not be on the ballot on the ballot papers come February 3 this year, after High Court Judge Kwenda ruled on Friday that they cannot contest under the same party that recalled them. So apparently they were recalled and they submitted their papers in court wanting to contest using the Citizens Coalition for Change, which is the party which recalled them. So Justice Kwenda has ruled that they cannot contest using the party name, using the same party which recalled them. The politicians were elected into their respective positions in the August 23 elections last year, but they were recalled by self-styled party interim Secretary General Sengezo Tsabangu, who claimed they had ceased to be members of the main opposition. In a court challenge seeking their removal from the ballot, Tsabangu argued that the ousted MPs and councillors illegally submitted nomination papers under a party that had recalled them. The judge, Justice Kwenda, then upheld Tsabangu's argument and ruled in his favor. So those MPs who were looking forward to once again participate in the by-elections which are coming on February 3, using the name Citizens Coalition for Change, they cannot do so. They cannot use that name. They have to nations using another party name or even independent, they are no longer allowed to use the Citizens Coalition for Change name since they have been recalled by their supposed interim Secretary General.
Now, I understand that Zimbabwe is grappling with a cholera outbreak, same with Zambia. And so far, you guys have received 1 million vaccines?
Yes, since February 29, 2023, Zimbabwe has been grappling with cholera. So this week, Zimbabwe will take delivery of a consignment of close to 1 million cholera vaccines ahead of the commencement of a nationwide vaccination campaign, which is set to kickstart next month. The Ministry of Health and Childcare has secured 2.2 million doses of the oral cholera vaccine from the International Coordinating Group, which will be delivered in batches. The vaccination campaign is targeting multiple hotspot districts in 7 provinces, and they will begin the vaccination campaign will begin on February 29. So starting next week, the country will be receiving the cholera vaccine, which have been bought by the Ministry of Health and Childcare.
Into your last story, CAF has condemned Zim again.
Yes, the Confederation of African Football have once again condemned both the National Sports Stadium and Rufaro Stadium as unsuitable to host international football matches, raising the prospects that the Warriors might be forced to play their home games in foreign country, especially in the upcoming World Cup qualifiers in June. The Continental Football Body also expressed disappointment with the slow pace of renovations at the National Sports Stadium. You also find out that last year, for our World Cup qualifiers match between Nigeria, we had to fly to Rwanda to play for our home game there in Rwanda, because right now our stadiums in Zimbabwe, they are not suitable, and CAF has once again condemned them. The body has said that the stadiums, they are not fit and they cannot be used for any matches up until Zimbabwe has renovated the stadiums to international standards. So right now, the body has also expressed its disappointment in the slow pace of renovations, because we have been condemned for quite a long time, and the least that the Ministry of Sport and even the government can do is to make sure that we play some of our World Cup qualifiers matches at our home ground. But right now we can't do that, and we are going to be forced to go to South Africa to play for our home ground, for our home match at the.
Well, that is a shame, and we certainly hope that can be rectified soon. But thank you very much, Talent, for bringing us the news stories from Zimbabwe.
You're welcome, and thank you very much for having me.
Let's take a look at our weather predictions before we get into our economic news.
In economic news, we're looking at Namibia tourism industry. While the average room sales for 2023 were just 2% lower than 2019, the average bed occupancy last year was actually 1% higher at 51.68% compared to 2019. The year 2019 is known as the last pre-pandemic year for tourism. According to Hospitality Association of Namibia CEO Gita Paytold, these statistics speak to the increase in leisure travel to Namibia, which sees more double room occupancy than with business travel. Now, the portion of leisure travel in 2023 was just under 90% compared to just under 84% in 2019, a sign that both the business and conference travel markets have not yet recovered to the extent that the leisure travel market has recovered and even grown last year. Now, she said Namibian visitors at tourism establishments dropped slightly last year, while South African components also saw a drop of just under 8.1% in 2023. Now, this speaks to the economic limitations which are faced by the two nations.
In our next story, we swing over to East Africa. The Kenyan government is set to exit its government-to-government G2G deal that it launched in April 2023. The G2G oil supply deal agreed between Kenya and three national oil exporters from the Gulf was launched by Kenya's President William Ruto last spring in a bid to stop the free fall of the Kenyan shilling against foreign currencies. In a report by the International Monetary Fund, IMF, the Treasury said that the scheme has not worked as it hoped. The government intends to exit the oil import arrangement as they are cognizant of the distortions it has created in the FX market, the accompanying increase in rollover risk of the private sector financing facilities supporting it, and remain committed to private market solutions in the energy market. The deal marked a switch from an open tender system in which local companies bid to import oil each month. It was initially for 9 months but was extended for another 12 months to December 2024, after which date it will now be withdrawn. Since the scheme's launch, the shilling has depreciated by over 20% against the US dollar, surpassing the historical low mark of 160 to the dollar.
All right, those have been our economic news stories. Sport comes after the indicators. All right, so Arsenal managed a 5-0 win on Saturday. Liverpool managed a 4-0 win yesterday. And that is all the football I watched. How are you, Ari?
Yes, very good morning, everyone. Yes, and it is 9-0 Arsenal and Liverpool. I don't know if that adds up well, but that is the situation at the moment is Liverpool that beat by 4-0, like you said, and they've got 48 league points now after 21 games, and that is points clear to City, Manchester City, but they have played one game less on 43 points. Arsenal, they've catched up a little bit actually, 21 games, 43 points. and that is after beating Crystal Palace by 5-0, like Ashwin mentioned. So Aston Villa still on 43 points in 4th position. Also, there was some fighting. We don't always have boxing and fighting on the program, but that's it's got the strong international standing as well in this UFC title fight. That was Dricus du Plessis of South Africa that won the title. It's Dricus du Plessis of South Africa winning the UFC title fight in Toronto. That was in Canada. We fought against Sean Strickland of the USA. And that was very tough. That was a split decision, but Dricus du Plessis is the UFC title winner, new middleweight world title holder on the UFC. On to tennis news. It's the Australian Open. That's still tennis. It is week 2, so this is an important week for everyone. Results coming in. The number 7 seed, that is Stefanos Tsitsipas, is out of the tournament. That is Raina Sabalenka. She continues to have a good tournament. She won her 4th round game. And then also in the women's division, it is Coco Gauff of the USA still confirming that she is a big contender for the title, beating Magdalena French by 6-1 and 2. But it is the number 7 seed, Stefanos of Greece, to number 11 seed, Taylor Fritz, in 4 sets. So that's Australian Open continuing. The finals will be this coming weekend. Then lastly, European Rugby Challenge tournament. It is the Cup. It is a big prestigious rugby tournament, South African teams tournament. It was the Bulls playing at home. They beat Bordeaux by 46 points to 40. But important win for them for playoffs. And then also the Stormers won away from home in France. Very, very snowy there. It was against Stade Francais. They won 24 points to 20. And also in the Challenge Cup, that's the Sharks beat the Dragons 29. The Lions lost to the Ospreys at home 38-28. And then Oyonnax beat the Cheetahs by 1 point, 28-27. So that's the sports news for today. Ashwin, I'm quite happy for us, the two of us, having a weekend that combined we won 9-0.
Factual. Thank you for that, Ari, and thank you for being gracious, knowing that you are South African and you could have taken a whole different direction with this broadcast.
Yes.
All right, so the reason I say that is because AFCON was played. We would be amiss to not talk about the game. So Morocco drew with DR Congo. DR Congo is on a bit of a streak in the sense that no one expected them to be playing as well as they've been playing. They also shared the spoils with Zambia before, but with Morocco, that's really showing that they are up to compete. Zambia was playing Tanzania. They had one red card, and in spite of that, very interesting match, yeah. But in spite of that red card, Zambia managed to equalize, I believe, in the 88th minute, and it was 1-1 until the end of that game. And then Namibia played South Africa, and Namibia just has to focus on Mali, which is the next game.
The next one.
Those have been our sports stories. See you soon.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master. Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
Some quick highlights before we say goodbye. Nampower renews contract defying government directive. Congolese president sworn in. Namibia in high demand with leisure travelers.
And with that, we've come to the end of the broadcast. Do remember that you can catch Africa Good Morning all week, same time, same place. From me, Glenn Rashipura.
And Ashwin Berry. Suraja Kanaka.